In this video, I'm going to describe the practice of ancestral intercession. I first began to study this practice when I stumbled on a curious passage in the Jewish Talmud. This led me through my research to uncover evidence that ancient Jews and Christians commonly asked their departed ancestors to pray for them as a part of their spiritual lives. And the practice remains a valid and valuable way for us to seek God's mercies in our lives today. Ancestral Intercession, Caleb's Hour of Need. Perhaps you know the story of how Moses sent spies into the Promised Land in the book of Numbers, chapter 13. As the children of Israel approached the land which the Lord had promised to give them, the Lord told Moses to send a representative from each of the 12 tribes to spy out the land in advance of their invasion. Now, 10 of the spies declared that the land and its people were too mighty for Israel to conquer. Only 2 of the 12 spies, Joshua and Caleb, declared that Israel could triumph. According to the Babylonian Talmud, Sotah 34b, Caleb sought heavenly assistance in resisting the plan of the other spies. While the spies were in the land, Caleb went alone to visit the cave of Machpelah in Hebron, the site where the patriarchs and matriarchs had been buried. And then we read the following. He went and he prostrated himself upon the graves of the fathers. He said to them, "My fathers, seek mercy on my behalf, that I may be saved from the plan of the spies." Now, some might read that account and conclude that Caleb engaged in the practice known as saint intercession. Saint intercession is when a living person asks a dead person to pray for them. It's a practice accepted and promoted by the Catholic and Orthodox churches, but generally condemned by Protestants. I have made a series of videos on this channel in which I describe a biblical defense of the practice of saint intercession. But what Caleb actually did was a special type of saint intercession. He was not appealing to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob because they were saints. Rather, he was asking them to pray for him because they were his fathers, and he was their son. Ancestral intercession is the practice of asking our departed fathers, mothers, grandparents, and other ancestors to pray for us, precisely because of our bonds of kinship and affection with them. The practice seems to have faded in the Church with the increased focus on official saints, but there is no reason not to reclaim it today. Now, why did Caleb not just ask God in the silence of his heart to give him strength to resist the plan of the spies, and then, with God's help, make a good report? I think we can safely assume Caleb did so. Have you ever had such a pressing need in your life that, while you did indeed pour out your heart to God, you then also asked a friend to pray for you? That's where Caleb was that day. He knew that there were other people he could ask to pray for him who were just as concerned about the success of the children of Israel as Caleb himself was, the parents of Israel. And Caleb is not asking them to pray for him because they are holy men, but they are parents who, as parents, love their children and their grandchildren, and even love unconditionally as parents the generations they will never see. Now, how far removed was Caleb from the people buried in the cave of Machpelah? If you piece together Caleb's genealogy from biblical sources, Caleb was the great-great-great-great-grandson of Abraham. Some people might consider that pretty distant, but I don't. Let me explain just how close a great-great-great-great-grandfather is by introducing you to someone very important to me. My Abraham, Wright Massey. I was born and raised in Wisconsin, But that fact flows in part from the decision of a man long ago who, like Abraham, left his land and became a sojourner in a distant place. In 1819, a man named Wright Massey was born in Hollingsworth, England. In 1848, he married Betty Warhurst. They left England and moved to America in 1855, eventually settling in Moscow, Wisconsin. Their first son, Joseph, was born that same year. Wright Jr. was born in 1858, followed by Edward in 1860, and finally Cornelius in 1864. Wright Massey passed away in 1866 from quick consumption, probably tuberculosis, leaving Betty to raise 4 young boys on her own. She did admirably, and she lived to see them all grown up and with families of their own when she passed on in 1900. Their son Edward married Mary Diamond on January 2nd, 1882. Their first child, William, was born in December of that year. William married Rose Roethlisberger in 1906. Their son, William Allen, was born in 1912. William Allen married Helen Adler in 1935. Their second son, William Frederick, was born in 1939. William Frederick Massey married Nancy Dodge in 1958. My twin brother Kevin and I are their third and fourth sons respectively, born in 1966. And so, Wright Massey is my great-great-great-grandfather. He is to me what the patriarch Isaac was to Caleb. But Wright Massey was the Abraham to the large clan of Masseys descended from him here in the United States. He and Betty bravely came to America, seeking a better life for themselves and the family they would have. At the age of 47, he lay on his deathbed, leaving behind his dear wife Betty and 4 young sons, ages 10, 8, 5, and 2. He must have been so overwhelmingly concerned with their future safety and well-being. Wisconsin in 1866 was no easy place to eke out an existence, and he passed from this life with a heart full of love and concern for them. And where did that love go? Love is stronger than death, Song of Songs 8:6. That love lived on in a soul that joined eternity, wishing health, happiness, and prosperity upon his children and his children's children whom he never met in life. Wright Massey's son Edward died the same year my own father was born, which shows you that what might seem like multiple generations are not so very far apart. Edward's own son William, Wright's grandson, died 1 year after I was born, and I've been told that he held his twin great-grandsons in his arms. Which brings us back to the point. These people I have been describing care for me because I am one of them. Wright Massey, who has been dead for over a century, knows me and wants what is best for me just as much as for those 4 boys he left behind. I can and should ask him to pray for me just as readily as I would my own late father and other more official saints of the Church. In my book, Praying Our Fathers, The Secret Mercies of Ancestral Intercession, I go into much greater detail on this topic. I show you evidence that the practice of ancestral intercession was common in both early Judaism and Christianity. I describe how and why ancestral intercession faded from more common practice in these communities. And I describe how I personally incorporate ancestral intercession into my prayer life. Praying for our beloved dead and asking them to pray for us is how our relationship with them can continue. Talk to your beloved dead. Ask them, as Caleb did, to seek mercies on your behalf. In so doing, we remain in relationship with those whom we love, even after they pass into eternity.